Hello and welcome. I got the question the other day, isn't it really difficult to learn Tibetan? Well, it depends how much time you put into it. But when it comes to the alphabet, it's not terribly difficult to learn. It's not, there are definitely some differences, as I mentioned in the video about the sounds of Tibetan. So if you're familiar with that now, let's have a look at the Tibetan alphabet. So first thing to notice is that there's many books out there that give you an overview of the alphabet and how to write it. So no shortage of resources on the internet, but just to give you a sort of a step-by-step walkthrough here. It's typically arranged in groups of 4 letters. And there is sort of a pattern to the letters. But for now, you don't need to worry about any of that. We're just going to get a little bit familiar with the alphabet as it is. So the first letter in the Tibetan alphabet is the strong, kind of sharp K sound that we talked about. So ga. And in English, that's how it looks. And then if you switch to your Tibetan keyboard, it looks like, oops. And to just write it by itself like that looks a little bit strange, because normally what you see in Tibetan is a syllable marker that's called a tsek. So the syllable marker is a little triangular mark that looks like that. Some people call it a dot, but it's not really a dot. The main thing is that it's written, traditionally it's written with a bamboo pen. So you typically write from right to left to right. So the stroke goes like this, and then you have the stroke going down, and then the middle one, and then this one going down using a bamboo pen, and then the tsek, like just a small mark like that. So that principle holds the same. You will see it's pretty easy to find a diagram online. If you like, I will add a link to some good resources for how to do the calligraphy of the Tibetan alphabet, but I find it just easier to write. And I apologize if I do some typos, because sometimes I'm typing in Wiley and sometimes I'm typing using the Tibetan keyboard. So my brain gets a little bit confused, but no big deal. So that's the first letter, ga, the sharp sort of high tone ga. Then you have the aspirated ka, and that looks like this. And again, we'll put a tsek after that. And then we have ga and nga. And you put a tsek after that as well. So what you notice that if you feel what's happening in your mouth, you'll notice that all 4 of these are having your tongue touch pretty much the same area, or working most in the same area in your mouth. So ga, ka, ga, nga. You feel the back of your tongue against your palate in the back of your mouth. So they're all happening in the same location. Then we're going to put what's called a she, which is a she, which is a line marker. Or sometimes it serves as a comma, sometimes it's a period. In this case, it's the end of the line of the first row of the alphabet. So ga, ka, ga, nga. The next row is in a slightly different place in your mouth. So the first one is ja. And then we have cha. Then we have ja. And then we have nya. So again, when you're practicing, feel a little bit in your mouth where things are happening. You will notice that the letters move around less within the row and more between the different rows. Slowly, you'll get used to the pattern. No need to worry too much about it at the beginning. Next, we have ta, and then we have ta, then ta, and oops, na. Oh, I put in a tsek in there. We don't need one. That one can close just after that. And then I'll put a she. Oops, she. This you notice that I put a tsek here before the she, and then this one I didn't. After nga, you always put a little a tsek, because when you're looking at it sort of from a distance, if you don't put it in, it can sometimes be confused with the ga, right? Because they look kind of, I mean, it could be a ga with a missing. So to avoid confusion, whenever you need to put a she after a nga, you also put a tsek. So so far we have ga, ka, ka, nga, ja, cha, cha, nya, da, ta, da, na. Next, we go to what are called the labials, or the lip sounds. So pa, and then pa, then pa, and ma. And again, we put the she at the end. Next, we have za, ca, za, and wa. Next row down, we have, it's not as regular, the pattern now anymore. So we have sha, sa, wa, ya. Then we have ra, la, sha, sa, and then finally ha and a. So ga, ka, ka, nga, ja, cha, cha, nya, da, ta, da, na, ba, pa, pa, ma, za, ca, za, wa, sha, sa, a, ya, ra, la, sha, sa, ha, a. So you'll notice that there are a few things that sound extremely similar. Mainly, the ones to be aware of are this low sha versus the high sha. So sha and sha. They're both just sh in English. You wouldn't notice the difference, but in Tibetan it makes a difference. So sha is a low tone, and sometimes it will be modified to sound more like a ja, voiced instead of unvoiced. And sha will never be voiced, it'll just be sha. And then sa, the low tone sa, also it can sometimes be modified to more like za, like z. And then sa, which is the high tone sa, will never modify to z, it always sounds like s. And the other duplication is a. So this is a low tone a, and this is sort of I guess a medium a. All of the tone things are rather complex, and I'm not a native speaker, so you're best to ask a Tibetan teacher about all of the subtleties of that, but I'm sure that there's a variation. Tone in general is more important for people apparently who speak the central dialect from Lhasa, it makes a bigger difference for them. And also it can be confusing if you start using different tones because suddenly you're saying different words. So it's good to be aware that the tones do have a sense for many people. So let's just read through it one more time so you get a chance to try again and try to memorize the structure and just feel what's happening in your mouth when you do this. So ka, 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 nga, cha, 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 nya, ta, 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 na, pa, 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 ma, za, ca, za, wa, sha, sa, a, ya, ra, la, sha, sa, ha, a. I hope you found this helpful. Repeat it if you need to.